Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we find ourselves as early primate ancestors from over 60 million years ago. Now you'll be choosing different evolutionary paths to evolve into different types of primates. Primates is an evolutionary board game where you can trace the evolution of over 100 different primate species, ranging from leaping lemurs to majestic gorillas. Now, Primates is for 2 to 4 players. It takes 45 to 90 minutes to play, is for ages 14 and up, and it's published by Green Butterfly Games. Now, it's being crowdfunded right now, so I'm going to show you how the game works, and I'll see you on the other side. This is a crowdfunding preview, and all the art and components you see here are not final, they're prototypes. To see all the most up-to-date art and components, check the link in the description of this video. Now what I'm showing you here is actually the back of the game board, which is really cool because it shows you a lot of the history and the thought that has gone into the theme of the game. This is a phylogenetic tree, which essentially shows, in this case, relationships between 22 of the 80 different primates over the course of lifetime. And it's really interesting because this tree, how it's showing you here with all the different sort of primates, look at how they're linked, because now I'm going to flip the board over. Now those were early members that were simple-nosed or dry-nosed primates. And even the numbers you see here from 1 all the way through 7 here, they represent the following geological periods. For example, the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s all the way through here, these range from more than 66 million years ago, where if you go all the way up through the top one here, like the 6 and 7, those are 2.5 million years ago to the present. So you're working your way all the way through history here. Now each player of the game, they're going to have 3 primate meeples. So there's different colors, yellow, white, orange, and black here. And they start at the bottom of the tree, and over the course of the game, you're going to be maneuvering these up through these different traces through the tree. And you're trying to have the most points at the end of the game. And you'll be getting points in different ways, like getting to the tops of these trees here. And you'll be gathering extant species, which essentially are primates that are living today. You'll also be getting points from extinct primate cards. Now you'll also be getting points at the end of the game for how far you are on this heart track, and different abilities and bonus cards will help you drive you up here. And you'll also be getting points from bonus cards that you'll get throughout the game. So let's talk about how you get all these different types of points and how the game works. Now the game lasts between 8 and 10 rounds, and that depends on whether you're playing between 2 and 4 players. Now the game is played in clockwise order. When it's your turn, the first thing you're going to do is one of 3 actions. Now one of those possible 3 actions is group movement. And in this, you're going to roll the 3 dice, and then you're going to move each of your primates, and you're going to assign each of them one of these values that you've rolled. For example, I rolled a 1 here, maybe I'll move this one 1, and then you put the die next to just to help track which ones you've moved, because once there's a bunch of primates on the board, it might get confusing as to which ones you've moved. Now this one, I might move 3, so I might go 1, 2, 3, and move this one over here, and this one I might go 1, 2, 3, and move this one up like this. Now another type of action you can take instead of the group movement is the solitary movement. And in this case, you'd roll 2 of the dice, you add them up, in this case we're at 4, and you move one of your primates 4. So I can make a 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Now why are we moving up these different traces through the tree here? Well, because if we ever get to the 7th spot there, we're going to be able to evolve into this type of primate. So these are all different types of primates you can see here: great apes, gibbons, old world monkeys, new world monkeys, and such. And when you get that type of primate, first of all, you're going to be able to get points. That'll give you points at the end of the game. And these are extant, meaning they're still living today. They're all going to give you some ability cards, depending on the primate. This one says splashing. So we'll go through this deck, we'll actually look for this ability, and we'll gain it. Now each player has their own player board. They're going to be tracking and keeping their different primates in different spots, like the extant ones or the extinct ones, your abilities. You're going to be getting food resources, what I'll talk about in just a moment, and then some bonus cards. So this helps you sort of manage all the cards that you're building in your tableau. Now this shows you an ability, splashing. Now this game has a lot of great historical or text that has to do with, the reality of life in the primate world. Like for example, splashing. Gorillas make spectacular splash displays to intimidate rivals. And this allows you to, if your meeple's within one space of another player's meeple, you can push their meeples sideways to another space with the same number, sort of pushing them off. Maybe they're racing up a tree to get a specific primate and you want that one, push them off. Now some of these primates actually have more than one ability, like this one. And for example, these two ability cards allow you to do different things. Now let's look at the text here. Gibbons use a form of high-speed locomotion called brachiation, in which they swing from tree to tree. Now this allows you to spend one of the food resources to get +2 movement. So let's talk a little bit about these food resources. Now we were just looking at the orange one, and orange food tokens are essentially represents fruits, nuts, and seeds. Green food tokens, they represent leaves and algae. Brown food tokens, they represent animal foods such as insects and meat. And then you might see this this wild one here. This is an exudate food token, and it represents exudates, which is the substance secreted by plant or insects such as nectar, tree gum, and honeydew. And these are essentially wild, so they can be used for any other token. So you're going to be using these food tokens for different reasons. One of them we just saw, you can spend one to move with that ability, but you're also going to be using these to gain these different extinct primate cards by spending them in order to get these, which are going to get you points at the end of the game. But we'll talk about how these food tokens come out in just a little bit. Now these ability cards are one-time use, so if I use this to spend the orange food for +2 movement, this would go back either in a discard pile or back into the ability pile, either way. Now duets, many gibbon species engage in beautiful and elaborate duets. And then when taking the rest action, which is what we're going to go over next, you discard an additional ability card to move up that heart track. And as we mentioned at the beginning, as you're moving up this heart track, that's how many points you'll get at the end of the game. That's one way to get, those points. Now we had just seen us getting to the top of this tree. After you got the primate from there, you would then bring this down to the bottom and you would flip over the next one on this specific primate. Now so far, we showed you 2 of the possible actions. Remember, only taking one of these on your turn. We talked about group movement, moving all 3 of our primates, or a solitary movement, moving just one of them. Now, those actions basically reflect the different travel strategies of primates in the wild. Some primates, such as mandrills, frequently travel together in large groups, where others, such as male orangutans, are mostly solitary and travel alone. Now, movement in the game actually has double meaning as we're moving up there, because it symbolizes both the physical locomotion of primates within their environment and also the diverse evolutionary paths that they've followed over millions of years of deep time. Now, instead of doing one of those 2 types of movements on your turn, for your action, you can rest. And when you rest, you get to take any one of these 3 top bonus cards. Now, looking closer at these bonus cards, when you get them, at the end of the game, they're going to give you some guaranteed points. Some of them will give you some immediate abilities or actions. For example, gain these 2 food. Or you can move one of your meeples sideways to another space, like going from S5 to P5. Or some of them will give you more conditional points for different primates that you have at the end of the game. For example, for each extant gibbon or siaming, or plus 2 more for each of these, plus 4 more for each of these. So you can be sort of like working on set collection for having this bonus card. Now once you've taken one of the 3 actions, either group movement, solitary movement, or you're going to take the bonus cards by resting, you're going to reveal an environment card. This tells us how many rounds are remaining. So we've got 8 rounds remaining, and so we're going to draw this card. Now in this case, a lot of the time, most of the time actually, it's going to have you place food tokens on specific spots. It also will tell you, some interesting historical aspects as well. So in this case, we're going to place these 2 on S7. And so here they are, they go like this. Now, if somebody else on their movement lands on here and ends their movement on there, they get to take these food. And let's talk a little bit more about what you'll do with this food in just a moment. But it's important to note that you have to end your movement on those. This one happens to be at the end of the trace there, the end of the tree. Well, let's say the next player's end of their turn, they flip the card. This is going to go on T6. So if this is on T6 and this player moves 2, they're not going to get this. But if they move 1, then they will. Now, as you set this deck up at the beginning of the game, again, there's 8 rounds here because I'm playing a 4-player game. The 3rd player is going to flip it up at the end of their turn, put these 2 on P7, and the 4th player is going to go like this. And some of these do different things, like refresh all the 3 bonus cards, and then essentially cycling through those. And this tells us that there's 7 rounds remaining. So there's always a number of cards between rounds depending on the number of players. In this case, in 4 players, there's going to be 4 cards between each round. In a 2-player game, there'll only be 2 cards. So that's how it sort of keeps keeps each turn going, helps you stay in the moment of the round, and it keeps reminding you of how many rounds there are remaining. Now, on your turn, you can be using these food for different things. Like we showed you earlier, you can use them with ability cards to move and do different things, but you can also spend them to gain some of these extinct primates. Now let's say we're going to assign the 2 to this primate of ours, and we move 2 like that. We are on this space. This denotes that we are on H5, and this is telling us that, hey, this is where one of the extinct primates cards have to do with, like H5. So for this one, we could spend 2 green and 2 orange food if we were on this space, and we will get this, and it's going to be worth 9 points at the end of the game. So it's another thing to do with food. And again, you're going to play that certain amount of rounds, depending on players, and then get up all your points from the heart track and all your extant primates, all your extinct primates, all your bonus cards, and any leftover food are worth 1 each, and whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. So what I'm going to do now is show off some of the cards of the different primate groups and some of their corresponding ability cards, so you can just get a feel for the artwork, and you can pause this at these different levels and read the different cards if you so choose. And actually, all of the ability cards for this primate group all have the leaping ability. Here we see some seed predation, tree gouging, twins, and howling for abilities. Feel free to pause and read all these. In this Great Apes group, we have abilities of tree swinging, culture, pirouette, and super memory. Now for the gibbons here, we have some abilities that I haven't shown you yet. Juggling, rhythm, and throat sack are ones that I have not shown yet, so pause to read those. Now in this last group, the Old World monkeys, we see some abilities, not all of them, but I'm showing you a few of them. Suffixes, sitting pads, lip flip, and leaf digestion. And lastly, I will show you some of the extinct primates. One of these actually being one of the ones that would give you the extra bonus points in the bonus cards long arms that I showed you earlier. But there's, again, lots of text here. You can feel free to pause or read more about these. Well, there you have primates, and as I showed in the overview, you'll be reacting to the environment, moving your different primates to gain food on different paths, and as your primates evolve, they'll be unlocking special abilities. Now, if you'd like to see the most up-to-date art and components and all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me, and that's going to take you directly to the Kickstarter project page. And I'm sure that Green Butterfly Games would love your support.